Hey, everybody, welcome back. It is the SCB Steelers Podcast presented by Deck Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. We are very pleased to be part of the Variety Sports Network. And of course, the show comes to you from the Frank Walker Law Studio. Thanks to Frank and, of course, Brandon at Variety Sports for giving us this platform. And, of course, everybody down in South Florida there at Deck Roofing. Wow, what a week it has been, gentlemen. It started off with a Monday night postseason loss, and it has taken off from there. I'm not even sure what the right words are. Stunning, not stunning, but still surprising. I mean, there's just so many different ways of doing this, and I don't want to speak for any of you. I want to turn it over to you guys because we all have very, very different feelings on this. We're going to do the very best we can to keep up with questions in the chat tonight because I know there's going to be some, and we'll do our best. And obviously, we are all non-ball knowers, so we will do the very best we can to share what we knew, what we know now, what's coming, all that shit. But Ben, I would say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I know you will, I would say of the four of us, you are probably the one that is or was least calling for changes such as Mike Tomlin stepping down. Is that correct?
I think that Mike stepping down was unnecessary. However, I think that Mike realized that there was a need for change, specifically that his defense it's outdated. It's outmoded. It's time to move on. And he wasn't feeling as though he was necessarily the guy to bring that about. And I don't know what his reasoning was, but Mike needed to change. And I've alluded to this on the show before. I think Bill Cowher, toward the end of his tenure as a Steelers head coach, changed, and it won him a Super Bowl. Like he changed, he evolved, and it was great. And I think that Mike needed to do that, and I don't know that Mike felt like he could do that. Mark Malone's saying Mike stepped down just like Arians retired. Yeah, dude, he did step down. He wasn't going to get fired.
Art said as much.
I don't think it was necessary, but I think from his standpoint, he felt like it was the right call. Now, Rondé Barber apparently has said that Mike told him before the season that this was his last year. He was done. So, maybe he decided a long time ago this was it, and he was done. I don't know. One last run at glory with Aaron Rodgers. I don't know how anybody would think that was going to fucking work out, but maybe Mike did. I don't know. Maybe catch lightning in a bottle. As the season went on, he had to know that wasn't going to happen.
And just to clarify, Rondé Barber played for Mike when Mike was down in Tampa. So they've had a relationship that goes back many years. So I'm not going to say that Rondé's full of shit by any stretch because those two would have had a relationship. So it's certainly very possible that's what's said.
The thing that bothers me about this is that the two guys that are going to replace the guy who just left are not football guys. Okay? It makes me very, very uneasy. All this enthusiasm all the fucking Tomlin haters have about the fact that Mike's finally gone, we're going to see some changes, yada, yada. Dude, what the fuck? Do you realize who's going to pick this guy? Like, Art doesn't know football. Omar doesn't know football. Like, these are not the guys I would want picking a head coach. I'm sorry. Love the Rooneys, obviously, but these are not guys I would want picking a head coach. And I really hope they get some heavy input from Kevin Weidel because he does know football, and these guys do not. And don't get me wrong. I think that Art can identify a leader of men, which is important. There's absolutely no question. And you want that guy to be a leader of men first, but fuck, man, you need Art wanted Matt Canada, for fuck's sake. He wanted Matt Canada to come in and help with the offense and then be the OC. Matt Canada sucks. Okay, we all know that. Those were the results. But we pretty much knew that before Matt Canada was really Matt Canada. We were like, this guy really hasn't done anything worthy of being, lauded. We really shouldn't be that confident about his contribution. And then he came in and he stunk it up. I mean, this is not a guy that I place a great deal of confidence in when it comes to picking football people. I'm sorry. I just don't. So I'm feeling extremely uneasy about this. And we'll see. I hope it works out and that the guy he brings in knows what the fuck he's doing, because there's going to be a good amount of turnover.
Mm-hmm.
Not just in terms of expiring contracts. We know we have a whole bunch of expensive 1-year deals that are going to expire, and those guys are gone. But coaches come in and they want to make the roster their own, so they move some guys on. And you got other guys that have been there for a while. Maybe they want to win. TJ Watt, for example, maybe he doesn't want to be part of a rebuild. Maybe he wants to go on. And can you blame him? I couldn't blame him. So, what the fuck happens? I don't know. I'm not feeling confident about it. Let's put it that way.
Well, we'll get into the candidates and stuff a little bit later.
Enjoy your Kool-Aid, you fucks.
Ian, I would say Ben here, and then you were probably next in line of the four of us. I
Burner's on the show tonight
because we know Skirps was a hater. Shit. He wanted Tomlin gone like 5 years ago. So Ian, your reaction to this and the like.
Yeah, so I was surprised, but I wasn't disappointed. So I think that, my name here is Phil Connors no longer, right? And I think I tweeted after it happened, now I know what Bill Murray felt like on, at the end of Groundhog Day, that, finally it's something different, right? That we've seen the same story year after year. 3 straight years of 10-7 and first round playoff exits. And it's something different, right? It might be worse. It very well could be worse for the first few years. As Ben alluded to, 70% of this roster has contracts expiring either this year or after this. Is either going to be a free agent in 26 or 27, right? That there's a potential for huge roster turnover here. Art Rooney, thank goodness, came out and said that no current people on the staff are candidates for this position, and also basically said they can go look for other jobs, and if they're still available when we hire a coach, and want to come back, maybe we'll interview them. But if they find something else, best of luck to them.
Right.
Which is wonderful, because that means a complete philosophical overhaul potentially of the coaching staff. And that is a very good thing. Like Ben's alluded to, Tomlin needed to change. And whoever comes in, that means they're not going to be bound by, you have to keep Arthur Smith as your offensive coordinator, or you have to keep Terrell Aston as your defensive coordinator, or whatever, right? That they can bring in their own guys and shape the staff as they want it. And then with all the roster turnover, they're going to have a lot of say too in potentially building this roster. So it may be bad for a few years while they rebuild the roster and restock it. This was not a good roster, but it was filled with a lot of old guys on short-term contracts that aren't going to be around 2 years from now. So there's a lot of change coming. It's going to be tough to watch them on the field, but it's going to be something different, and they're going to have the potential to basically rebuild this thing. And it's not going to be it's not going to be an all at once, and they're probably going to sign some more veteran guys to fill gaps to try and stay somewhat competitive and still probably be around the middle of the pack because they're the Steelers and still have some good players. So but I think overall, thinking about Tomlin and just everything that's transpired in the last year, right? Thinking about the Rondé Barber thing that came out today, like think about his press conference a year ago after they lost that playoff game. And he walked off the stage or off the podium when asked about his contract situation. And thinking from that point onwards, I know I've talked on this show a lot this year about how Tomlin seemed lackadaisical with the media, seemed like he didn't have time for it, seemed like his heart wasn't in it as much. Like even, his press conferences just weren't as fiery as they used to be. Even his sideline demeanor wasn't as fiery as it used to be. And some of that was, just him getting older and with age. But I think some of it very well may have been that either he thought this was going to be his last year, or like it just didn't have the fire for it as much. And, that can happen. So I think it's a necessary move. I'm not going to say it's going to be a good move for the team in the short term, because there may be a few years where we don't have winning records with whoever our next coach is. But I think in the long term, it was a necessary move that needed to happen. And I will say I'm glad he got to go out on his terms as well. Because I think that was something that he always valued, was being able to go out on his terms. And I thought Art handled it very well in his press conference, saying, Mike wants to spend more time with his family, and any other reasons, I'll let Mike discuss those at his timing and anything else. But, it's a weird feeling, but it's also a hopeful feeling, because now there's hope for something different to come.
That's a good way to put it. I think that's probably how I would describe it too. And I agree with you. I think there might be some hiccups along the way, but Scarps, Mike Tomlin. You know who he is when he is not in front of microphones every Tuesday. So take us, if you would, take us to Tuesday afternoon, and you find this out that Mike is stepping down. What were your thoughts in those first few moments when you were processing this?
Well, I found it funny that my wife is the one who broke the news to me. And I was with my wife while I worked at the Steelers and after I left, and she knows I'm a pain in the ass anytime the Steelers play. And I was in a meeting for work, and it's like, my wife texts me, and I just thought, the baby was, whatever. And it was like Mike Tomlin steps down, and I was like, this is bullshit. It's fake news. It's whatever. And then I was like, holy shit, it happened. It's a weird feeling, and because I did get to work with Mike for 7 years, and I greatly appreciate that time. He did a ton for me personally and professionally. There's many, many stories that some I've shared and some I'll never share, but I always felt like Mike and Kevin Colbert cared about me and looked out for me. That's a good comment. Whatever. Fair enough. She gets it. And so part of me is like, wow, like this is really strange, because when I worked there, Troy was like sort of the first big like retirement, and then Heath was the following year, and then I left, and then Ben retired, and all these guys, all the guys you grew up watching. Hines is another, probably actually Hines was the first. Hines, right. And then Troy. So all these guys you grew up watching, and then you get to work for them, you see them. And now that Mike's gone, and then maybe Cam is gone, it's just a weird feeling. Now, with that being said, I instantly felt like a sigh of relief. And I don't mean that in that, like, I'm glad to see Mike gone or he should have gone. I mean that in the sense that, like, there's something new on the horizon, that they're not going to run it back in 2026 because Art in his press conference said, I was ready to talk to Mike about 2026. And the fact that Mike said, or according to reports that, hey, I don't know if I could lead you guys. I care about you guys, but I don't know if I'm the right guy to basically said, I don't know if I'm the right guy to still do this job. And for him to say that, I think that had to have been a super tough decision to make. So I respect the hell out of him for making the decision and acknowledging that this wasn't working anymore. And I want to thank him for his efforts and tip of my cap to him because he came here. He absolutely, the standard is a standard. Well, for a long time, he did uphold that standard. Not so much recently in the playoffs. Actually, the last decade, the playoffs. Sorry, Mike. Mike, I know you're watching, man. I know you're watching. So,
of course he is.
But the fact that they're not going to do the same thing over and over. Steelers freak with a really good comment. But like knowing that and you know what? Let's just say this new coach, whoever it is, they get to 10-7 next year and they lose in the first round of the playoffs. Okay. I'm just throwing this out there.
Yeah.
But at least it was a different cast of characters. Like I feel that Mike was here such a long time. He was here longer than Cowher. And it's just like sometimes you get into a job and you just get comfortable and shit gets stale. And I'm not taking anything away from Mike or whatever, but it's almost like, well, it is. The fact that they got blown out at home on Monday night in the postseason is irrelevant now. Oh, you're muted, Ben, and that's fine. But I feel like there's a hope on the horizon and there's going to be growing pains. And you know what? I don't care. Bring it on. I've seen Kent Graham start games for this team. I've fucking seen losing seasons. I've seen Kenny Pickett fucking play football for this team. I will be fine. Okay. Like I will be fine.
Yes.
And and as much as I agree with you because Art is not a football guy and neither is Omar, but I do think that they will get this hire right, and I do think that they'll give the hire a long leash to build a contender. There's stability there, and I do think in the long run this was the best possible outcome for both sides. Mike got to walk away on his own terms, and the Steelers get to sort of find that next Hall of Famer, if you will, because Mike will be in Canton one day, regardless of what anyone says.
Agreed. And let me ask. There's a couple questions in the chat that I do want to get to, and like I said at the start, we know there's a lot of people are going to have questions, and we want to get to these as quickly as possible. Ben, I'll throw this out to you because I know you know it a little bit, and we've talked about it in our chat during the week. The rumor is that Mike is going to take a year off coaching, kind of energize whatever. The Steelers still have his rights. What does that mean in terms of if a team wants to obtain his services?
Okay, so initially what I was told is that no matter what, that his contract kept tolling or the rights kept tolling year over year because they had a 2-year deal. And in perpetuity, if someone wanted to hire Mike Tomlin, they had to pay the Steelers to do so. It sounds as though the Steelers own his rights for 2 years, and that is it. So if Mike wants to come back within 2 years and be a head coach, someone has to compensate the Steelers to bring Mike on. That is the way it works, apparently. I was misinformed. So, in other words, the contract does not toll.
Yeah.
So, it'd be similar to what happened with Sean Payton, where the Broncos had to send the Saints compensation to buy the negotiating rights from the Saints to hire Payton. Of course, they'd already negotiated the deal and it was done. So it was definitely happening. It was just a question of what the Saints were going to accept and what they weren't. I don't imagine, honestly, that Art is going to drive that hard a bargain because he's Art. He'll probably say, oh, Mike wants to go coach someplace else. Okay. Well, what do you think would be fair?
What would be a fair rate for Mike Tomlin?
Fucking first round pick.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know that that's what's going to happen. We'll see. I don't, I don't see Art as a guy who's going to try and drive a hard bargain because
I agree with you.
He is going to see that as trying to impede Mike from doing a job he wants to do, which is honorable, but you want to get maximum return there if you can.
Ian, another question in the chat
Can I jump in on Ben's point real quick? Sorry.
Yes, please. Go for it.
It's basically the Sean Payton scenario where Sean Payton resigned from the Saints. The Saints still owned his contract. Then Denver wanted to have Payton be their coach. And I believe the trade details there were the Saints got a first-round pick and a future second in return for Sean Payton and a third. So...
I mean, they got to pick back. They got to pick back. So basically, they got first, and they turned a third into a second.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. A third into a second. It was actually a future third for a future second. So they basically turned a third into a second and then got a first. So I would imagine it would be a similar. I mean, what Gruden got like 2 first-round picks when he went from Oakland to Tampa, but. I would imagine it's going to be a first and maybe some other stuff thrown in based on past history if Tomlin decides to come back. Because let's remember, everyone thought Bill Cowher was going to get back into coaching, and then he realized, oh, hey, I can work like 1 day a week plus prep work, the other days, but really work 1 day a week and get paid $10 million. This is a pretty sweet gig. I like this TV thing. So, maybe Tomlin gets out of it and realizes, hey, and he always talked about how much he loved the grind and loved everything else, but that TV money's there.
I think that Tomlin would be good on TV.
He'd be great on television. Yeah,
I agree.
Why does everyone think that though?
You don't think so?
What is it? What is like? Okay. Based on what you see from him, okay. What makes you think he would be great on television?
When he's actually being genuine, he's entertaining. When he's doing his weekly press conferences and he's being a fucking dick because he hates the press and he's trying to tell them as little as possible, then yeah, you would think that he would be terrible on television. But that's because he's not trying to be engaging. He's not trying to be himself. He's like, whatever, fuck off.
Okay.
I don't want to tell you people shit.
But you have like a minimum amount of time on television to be able to convey your message, like, and they're talking about the Fox set, Howie Long, Michael Strahan, Terry Bradshaw. Is Jimmy Johnson still on that?
No, Gronk.
That's right. Okay. Is Gronk good for television? Like you thought he might be good, and he's
he's not. He's a fucking knothead, but people like him. Because he's a fucking knothead.
Okay. And people like Mike Tomlin. So when Kurt Menefee gets up there and is like, Mike, what'd you see from this game? Well, the proof is in the pudding, Kurt. Like, what?
So you're saying he's just gonna?
Okay. And here's my.
I don't think that in those circumstances that he will just deliver Tomlinisms.
You think he will or won't?
No, I don't think that's all he'll deliver. Okay. I think that he will actually open up and become personable.
But the problem with that is that Mike doesn't do that. I know the Mike behind the scenes that does that.
He doesn't
do that.
So he doesn't do it when he's just being himself?
No, I'm saying that he doesn't do that in front of the cameras. Like, okay, sometimes we'll make a little joke like, oh, if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle, which is hilarious.
Okay, look at him when he does like the Pivot podcast or just an interview where he actually wants to talk to the person he's speaking to.
But the Pivot podcast it's long. Like he's not going to have 5 minutes on Fox to just talk.
He's going to have to be rapid fire.
I see your point.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, Ryan.
Like, you know what I mean? Like again, like it's just anyway. And I know Mike has a personality. I'm not saying that, and I've seen the side of Mike no one has ever seen, and that's fine. I don't think like he's some automatic person to be good at television. I
didn't think Terry Bradshaw would be good at television. I thought he was a fucking idiot, and he's good at television.
Well, he's still an idiot. But
I mean, John Madden was
my idiot.
John Madden was a fucking idiot.
But no,
was also very good at television. So it's like it doesn't necessarily matter how good they are at.
He would like seriously. It'd be like if fucking Kurt Menefee would be like, Mike, let's take it to the Steelers Ravens highlights. You know a thing or two about this one. He'd be like, yeah, Kurt. Obviously, this is Steelers and the Steelers and the Ravens. Me and John Harbaugh are no longer with the Steelers and the Ravens, if you will. Quite frankly, thank you very much. And it'd be it. Like that's that's the amount of time he has. I don't know. Whatever. I don't. So here's my hot take. He's not going to do television. And my hot take is he's not going to coach ever again in this league.
Ooh, okay.
Because he talked about what left is there to prove. There's reports that he said, "What else is there for me to chase? What's left? What's left for me to prove?"
Another Super Bowl. The thing you were chasing your entire fucking career, and you won
a Super Bowl without someone else's players.
Matt LaFleur couldn't do that either.
Whatever,
right?
I mean.
I said that to be an ass.
I understand.
Yeah,
I get it, and yeah, like we've all talked about, Mike is definitely responsible. Not maybe not completely responsible, but he's at least partly responsible for the condition of this roster. And this roster is not good.
No,
I don't care. Like again, going back to the fucking Kool-Aid drinkers and people fucking celebrating. Oh, this is gonna be the year in fucking July every goddamn year. This roster is not good and has a lot of deficiencies. And the one good thing that probably will come of this is that there are football minds in that building that will go, okay, this is an opportunity for me to talk to you about the deficiencies on this roster, right?
Yeah.
And let's talk about that.
Well,
let's build on the young pieces we have in place. Let's extend those guys. Let's keep them around, and let's talk about the deficiencies we have, and let's like resolve that.
We will dive into the roster a lot more starting next week. Yeah, we definitely would have probably tonight.
There's too much to cover, man. There's too much
obvious news here.
I do think, speaking of the roster, though, if they knew or had an inkling that this was Tomlin's last go-around, it does make some of the decisions coming into this season make a little more sense, right? Like, okay, you go after an Aaron Rodgers rather than, trying to, restock with a young quarterback or draft someone or whatever else, right? That it was, okay, let's trade for Jalen Ramsey. Let's trade for DK Metcalf. Let's try and make a run at it. So I think that, I know Art said he was surprised, was expecting to run it back with Tomlin again in 2026.
Right.
But I think from a personnel standpoint, it does make some of those moves make a little more sense too. If you think that Tomlin was thinking in the short term of let's try and build the best we can right now with what's available for one last run.
There are two personnel things I will discuss tonight, guys, and just get your thoughts. And I'm sure it'll come up more throughout the offseason because neither one of these things is going to be settled right away. The first is Cam, and there's going to be a ton of speculation as to what he does. We know the relationship that he has with Mike Tomlin. If you would have asked me mid-season, I would have said, yeah, I think he's retiring for sure. The guy had a hell of a second half of the season. He made second team All-Pro. He's going to be 37 years old. I think he retires, but I'll just say this. It wouldn't surprise me if he didn't, but I think he does. Scarps, what do you think Cam does?
Yeah, man. Last week I said that I would expect him to be back, but I also expected Mike to be back regardless of what happened Monday night. And I think this isn't just about Cam, and I know we'll get into the roster more later, but I think there's several players on this roster. If Mike isn't here, they might be considering exploring other options. And
no doubt.
And I want to make this perfectly clear that players choose to go to other teams for a variety of reasons. It's not just because of Mike Tomlin being here. That's not to say players haven't been like, I wanted to come here and play for Mike Tomlin. Okay. And the goal is that whoever the next head coach is, that players will want to come play for him.
Yeah.
But I think it's very fair to assume that several players, including Cam Hayward, are probably going to think like, oh, okay, well, Mike's not here anymore. Mike's the only coach I've ever known or ever loved playing for. So how can I get out of this situation if I don't want to be in this situation? And I still think Cam has something to prove, and I'm not ready to say he's going to retire. But I wouldn't be surprised if he did.
Okay. Ian, what do you think?
You asked me this question 2 weeks ago. You asked me this question a year ago.
Yeah.
I'm shocked we're here talking about Mike Tomlin, because a year ago your question was, what's the news story other than looking for a quarterback that we're going to be talking about in February 2026? And I said it was going to be Cam Hayward's retirement. I was not at all expecting it to be Mike Tomlin. So I do think I think both of what Scarps' points were correct. I think Cam still has something left in the tank. I think if Cam wants to play next year, I think he can be a very high quality player. I would put him above serviceable. I would not use serviceable as the adjective. He can be a high quality player. He was second team All-Pro this year. He's still got it. He's still got something in the tank. I think after the injury 2 years ago, he had something to prove this year that he could come back from that injury. So I do think he's got something left in the tank that he can still play. It's really the want to. Does he want to come in and play for a new coach? And that's probably going to depend on who that new coach is and what scheme they want to run and everything else that goes along with that. Who's the new coach? Who's the defensive coordinator that they bring in? All those other things, right? Like, let's just say hypothetically, I know we'll talk about candidates, but they're interviewing Brian Flores, right? Let's say it's Brian Flores. He has some familiarity with Brian Flores. He knows what Brian Flores is about, knows what his work ethic is, his style, all that. If they hire Brian Flores, there may be a higher likelihood that Cam comes back versus if they hire Nate Scheelhaas, which is the ultimate Yinzer name.
It is.
If we hire that dude, oh my gosh, it's going to be amazing. Just talk radio is going to be insane. But at any rate, like, you see my point. If we hire like a young offensive guy who's like never been a head coach before, never really coached at a high level, versus a guy who's been there, done that, has some familiarity with Cam has some of, like, it's two complete polar opposites of the spectrum. So we'll see where it goes. I'm not willing to say like Cam is definitely going to retire, but I think if I had to like bet on it right now, I'd say like 75% chance he retires.
Ben, 75. Where are you on Cam's retirement? Wow. Considering the Tomlin resignation?
Man, this is really hard to fucking pick, honestly. I think that Cam feels a need to prove that he can continue playing at a high level. So I'm having a difficult time saying that there's like a 75% chance that he'll retire. I think it's at best 50-50.
Yeah.
But what I'm thinking is going to happen is Cam's going to play someplace next year, somewhere else. He's going to leave. Like, he's going to say, I want to play for a contender.
Yeah.
Fucking trade me or release me.
Yeah. Let him chase a ring.
Yeah.
And Ben, I'll stay with you. What about TJ Watt?
The only out for the Steelers from TJ Watt's contract is to trade him.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and I wanted to wait a week to say this, I think the best thing for both parties is to let TJ seek a trade. I think it's better for TJ. He doesn't have to sit through a rebuild.
Right.
And it's best for the Steelers because they owe him $64 million and he's not performing at that level.
Nope.
The hard part about that is they owe him $64 million over the next 2 years, fully guaranteed. So if you're the acquiring team, you're paying $32 million a year for a guy that isn't necessarily performing at that level right now. He didn't this year, for example.
He's not even. They should have. They missed the boat to trade him.
I agree, Ryan. I do.
And everybody was in their fucking feels.
Hater.
All last offseason. No, okay. Well, everyone's saying I'm sunshine and rainbows now, so I gotta bring it back, right?
Well, you're just up in your feels. Like, you go from hating to being sunshine and rainbows.
I'm like a fucking 16-year-old girl that doesn't know.
You're a creature of extremes.
Which boy she likes. You know?
I gotta grab the ice.
Ryan, can I get an invite to your quinceañera?
Fucking Gordon Ramsay's fucking Hell's Kitchen's making the food for me.
Sorry, I'm in a hotel, so I have to make do with what I got, which is ice machine ice in a plastic cup. I think for TJ, I think the best thing for the Steelers is that they trade him, and the best thing for TJ is that they let him chase a ring someplace. But like, if you're a team that's acquiring him, do you want to bring on a guy who didn't perform well the year before and is owed $64 million fully guaranteed for 2 years?
Yeah.
If it's me and I'm acquiring that player, I say, yeah, that's great. He's got a productive track record, and that's wonderful. And but you're paying some of his salary, Steelers. Pittsburgh is picking some of that up, and like a substantial amount. So
Ian, you had a thought on TJ as well.
Yeah. So to build off Ben's point, the carrying the salary is one of the things that the NFL did not used to let you do that the trading team could pick up some of the salary, but now they do. Right. So that does potentially impact, though, like what the return could be, right? If you're trading TJ Watt and expecting the new team to pay him $64 million guaranteed, you're not getting a very good return for that.
No, you're not.
If you're willing to pick up some of the salary, then maybe you do get a better return for that. The other thing I will mention, and I know we're going to talk about the roster later, is the Steelers have a Nick Herbig problem, because Herbig has 1 year left on his rookie deal and played really friggin' well this year. He figured out how to set the edge. And traditionally, the Steelers have always, tried to draft and develop and hold on to their young guys, but they're paying TJ Watt all this money and they're paying Alex Highsmith all this money, and they're not going to be able to. You can't pay three guys at the same position. Right. So TJ, as the oldest of the group, would kind of logically make sense to be the one to phase out, but also, it's the Rooneys, it's being a Steeler for life, it's all that other stuff that goes into it.
Mhm.
I mean, TJ is the franchise
Matt Smith
leader
is
in
being
sacks. It's everything, it's everything that, everything that the Steelers have stood for so long kind of goes against trading TJ away, right? That, talking about Rod Woodson playing elsewhere, Franco Harris playing elsewhere, other guys leaving at the end of their careers. But at the same time, like, if you let Herbig walk in free agency, like, that dude is a budding star in this league.
Yeah.
Like, there's
I agree.
you can't let him walk, but you also can't pay 3 outside linebackers. But Alex Highsmith was your best outside linebacker this year. So, like, you have,
and he's under
problem.
contract though.
And he's under
contract.
Mhm.
And
Right.
So I agree with what Ian's saying, and I just want to piggyback on that real quickly and just talk about it in general. Like, and I talked to you guys about this earlier this year. I see a lot more value in the contracts that are expiring, the ones that have 1 year left, and extending those contracts than I do in this free agent class. This free agent class coming up isn't a very, and I'm talking about the Steelers free agent class specifically.
Right.
Not a great class. It's like, oh, whatever. Fuck those guys. Sorry, but I'm going to say it. I mean, Kenny G aside, not a lot of guys you want to keep. But the guys that are expiring after 26, there's a shit ton of value there. There really is. These are guys you want to tie up for the long term. Herbig being an example, but he's not the only one. There are a lot of guys in there that they have drafted well, and they need to protect those draft investments. This, I hope, is not the Steelers in the 90s where they just draft guys and they're basically the farm club for the rest of the NFL, which you remember that? Remember that, Mark?
Yeah.
And, and basically the rap was, well, the Steelers are cheap. They don't want to pay guys, blah, 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 yada, yada. There's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
And if TJ stays, that creates a problem. Not going to lie, it does. Not just from the number of snap standpoint with a guy like Herbig, but also from a cap standpoint. Like, you've got this much money dedicated to this guy. And, I argued with you guys last summer, and apparently I was wrong. Extend him. Actually, what I said is it's going to happen, so we should all just shut the fuck up and accept it.
Yes.
And it did. But, maybe it wasn't the right move. That's all I'm trying to say. Maybe it was not the right move to extend that guy for that amount of money and lock yourself into a deal where you were fully guaranteed for 3 years, and now all of a sudden he's not really producing anymore.
Like I said, we'll talk much more.
I know. Sorry.
Personnel.
I got off on it.
Nah, that's fine. That's what we do here. Scarps, did you want to add anything more on TJ?
No, move on. We're good.
Okay, so I'm going to go to you first because I do want to talk a little bit about the actual game that occurred on Monday night. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it. Most of the people.
He's an angry Scarps.
Know the outcome. They kind of know everything that transpired. But I thought, just real quick, I thought it was very much a microcosm of the season, a microcosm of recent seasons in general. To be sitting there at 7-6, and it felt, instead of a 1-point game, it felt like a 20-point game at times. And then once the fumble return happened, it felt like, game, set, match. But what were your thoughts on the game?
I thought the Steelers' best player for 45 minutes was C.J. Stroud.
Yep.
The Texans moved the ball, and the Texans were averaging 40 net yards per drive until the fourth quarter. They were moving the ball. They were C.J. Stroud was fumbling. That pick he threw to Eccles was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And the Steelers are very fortunate that they went into the fourth quarter and they were only down 1 because it should have probably been 24-6 or something like that. And then the dumbasses went on an empty set on that sack fumble for a touchdown, because I have no idea why, even though they're actually running the ball okay. And at that point, it was only a 10-6 game. The defense once again gave up 164 rushing yards. They couldn't get off the field on third down. That's the second straight playoff game where the opponent was 10 of 15 on third down. And when I posted that this week before Mike Tomlin stepped away, the fanboys were like, this isn't on the defense. You don't know ball, whatever. I didn't say it was on the defense. I just was pissed off about a variety of things that I wanted to get them off my mind. But the defense was not good enough again.
No, they got the 3 turnovers.
Why are you such a hater, Scarf? What the fuck?
And once again, TJ Watt, except for falling on a fucking loose football, was invisible. Cam Hayward had an okay game, but you know what?
Had a good game
on that flea flicker play. That dude was wide open. They're lucky. It looked like Woody Marks. It looked like
Sawyer made a huge play,
because it looked like Woody Marks ran 7 yards before he tried to pitch it back and flip. But anyway, Nick Chubb ran the ball well, and he's been washed all year. Woody Marks. Bottom line, this was a classic Tomlin playoff game, and I want to say this, and I know
didn't it feel to you guys like when they saw 93 and 95 in the game, they were like, yeah, we're running.
Yeah, and I think so I look at that as but they were running the ball effectively before the game was out of reach. The Texans moved the ball consistently. They're lucky. The Steelers are lucky they didn't lose by 40 points in this game. But I just want to say this. Over the last 7 playoff games, all losses, the Steelers are averaging 37 points allowed, 416 total yards allowed. And this is the one to me, the two things to me that blow my mind. They're allowing on average 156 yards rushing per game. And opponents are averaging 60% conversion rates on third down. Unfucking believable. And if you go,
and why is that? Because they kept getting into third and short over and over and over.
They weren't even in third and short the other night. CJ Stroud was terrible, and he was hitting throws still.
He did hit some throws, but he did, and in that fourth and fucking 8 or something that he hit.
Yep.
But they did have several situations where they were 3rd and 3 and less. And I was like, I don't know what you guys expect. Like, you keep them on schedule. How do you think you're going to end this drive? Like, you give them a 3rd and short, they're going to hit it every single time. And I don't think the defense played that badly. I don't. The defense surrendered 17 points, and they generated 3 turnovers. And if the offense had even been competent, they didn't have to be dominant. They didn't have to be stellar. They didn't even have to be good. All they had to do was be competent. If they were competent, they could have scored, 20 points. If they had scored 17 more points than they gave up, fuckers, the Steelers probably would have won this game, but they didn't. And so we would have been having a different conversation, and we're not, because they surrendered more points than they actually scored, which, when that happens, like, you give up 2 return touchdowns, you're not winning any playoff games. It's not happening. It ain't happening. I don't care how well you're decent. And at a certain point, your defense just is gassed, and you're like, well, fuck. Don't get me wrong. There were drives in that game. There were 2 drives. There was
you got that
2 yards.
Yeah, Scarps, go ahead, finish up.
Just make a quick point. Other players and coaches want to win. I want to give the Texans credit with the Mecca Ryans.
For sure.
That I didn't think.
Ben's frozen in time.
All right.
And he might be back. The Mecca Ryans and the Texans, they did a great job. They kept it what they wanted to do. They wore them down offensively, and then all fucking week, and I said this last week, playoff DeMeco is a different – that defense they're fucking dogs, man.
Yeah.
They and I'm gonna pick them to fucking beat the Patriots this weekend, even without Nico Collins. And that's the other thing too. Nico Collins didn't do much in this game, and he was hurt and he got concussed. I hope he's doing it, and he's probably not going to play this weekend.
Right.
But even without Nico Collins, they were still moving the ball.
Yeah. Ian, you wanted to get in.
Yeah. So first and foremost, Yarger in the chat said some very nice things, which he's got me all up in my feels about this. I responded to him in the chat too, but thank you for all the nice things you said about us. Secondly, when the Steelers score fewer points than I have children, that's a problem. Right? They scored 6 points and I have 7 kids. Like, what the fuck is going on here? Right? That is a problem. Third, to build off of Ryan's point and credit Josh Roundtree, who works for the Fan, KDK News, some other places. He tweeted this after the game. The worst third down defense of the modern era was Tennessee in 2020. They gave up 52% on third downs. Over our 7-game playoff losing streak, opponents are 58 for 99, which is basically 58%, 58 for 100, essentially, on third downs. So we're like 6% worse than the worst ever third down defense.
That's not good.
In the playoffs, right? Like, it's just,
that is not good.
No, and it's not all been, they got into third and short and whatever.
No,
but it's not all that. It's, Cleveland running the same fucking play over and over again, and us putting linebackers on Jarvis Landry because we couldn't match from the outside in and all that, right? It's been a consistent thing. They can't get off the field on third downs. And this wasn't a new thing against Houston. Although I will say credit to Houston, especially for their game plan against Kenneth Gainwell, because they knew we checked the ball down to Gainwell all the time. And anytime he leaked out of the backfield, he had at least one, if not two defenders all over him.
They did a great job on it. And
that's coaching and scouting.
They were also one of the league leaders in denying opposing offenses yak all season. And it's through things like that where they recognize teams that utilize the short yardage passing game and go, no, we're not going to allow that. We're going to hit that guy right away. They kind of, they do what the Steelers used to do. That's what the Steelers defense used to be. Like, as soon as you caught the ball, immediately.
Yeah. You're right. And remember when Tomlin said, and this was back in the 2009, 2010 era. Remember when Tomlin said, we're going to defend every blade of grass? That used to be the philosophy. And then this year, Tomlin was like, well, we don't really care about those swing passes. They're not going to hurt us. And then the Chargers fucking destroyed us on those. Yep. Right? Yeah. And that's what I'm talking about when I say that I didn't think Tomlin's heart was in it as much this year. And maybe he knew the roster wasn't as good and was just trying to cover for things. But it felt like the message changed from early career Mike Tomlin, who was fiery and to late career, who is just the one that stands out to me this year. The moment that stands out to me, I know I mentioned this on the show, was oh shit, was it the Green Bay game or was it I don't remember what game it was, but somebody kicked a 55-yard field goal against us, and Tomlin just had this look on his face like he was shocked that the guy made it. And I was like, you should not be surprised that somebody made a 55-yard field goal. That's commonplace in the NFL these days, right?
Yeah.
And
this year.
Yeah, right. And Tomlin just had this stunned look I can't believe he made that. What is going on? And it just seemed like he had that stunned look way too many times.
Let's be honest. Tomlin had the stunned look several times during the course of the season, and that was why I said to you guys, this really feels like 1998.
Yeah. I think it was the Chargers game, actually. It was Dicker, the kicker, that made it.
It was Dicker that did it, yes. But it wasn't just that. There were several moments where Mike just seemed to have this fucking look where he was like, I don't know. And so that's one of the reasons I'm not really that surprised that he moved on and said, I'm not the guy to lead the changes that need to take place within this organization, within the team. And that's cool. And, maybe Scarbs is right. Maybe we should appreciate the fact that Mike acknowledged that and appreciate him for it. And, fuck, man, I'm just really, really nervous about what's gonna take place here. Like, if they hire Shula from the Rams, and then Sheil Haas comes in and he's his OC. Well, fuck, it's all wine and roses. I'll be like, okay, cool, great job, here we go. But I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah. And you got to have dudes too.
Yeah, I think this situation reminds me a lot of what happened to the Penguins in the last couple of years too, which, another Pittsburgh franchise, but like,
really?
Yeah. Okay. So think about this, right? Like,
wait, the Penguins play in Pittsburgh?
Yeah. Right. But Mike Sullivan was a 2-time Stanley Cup winning head coach, right? You still had your core of players together. Like, yes, they were getting older, but they were still pretty good. And they were trying to fill gaps and still compete, and just like weren't able to get to that same level of competing. But and finally they fired Sullivan and parted ways, and he went and got another job in 5 minutes, like everyone said Mike Tomlin could do, even though Tomlin's may not, go somewhere else.
Doesn't want to coach.
Right.
He doesn't want to coach.
Right. But what I'm saying is, like, this year, the Penguins still have their flaws, but they've been competitive. They've been exciting.
Burner's been on fire tonight.
Everyone in the chat is great. You guys in the chat make the show. I'm so glad you guys all tune in. And
hey, there's our Aussie buddy just checking in.
Hey, good day, man.
Charger.
But it, Mike Sullivan had been the Penguins coach for a long time, and I've said this on the show before. I think in sports and with coaching, like, it's possible, it happens that you are a good coach, but your message just gets sour in the locker room. And the players all love Mike Tomlin, don't get me wrong. But I think it's just like, sometimes a change of scenery is not the worst thing in the world. Sometimes just a new, fresh voice in the locker room is not the worst thing. And like, the Penguins went from being one of the worst teams in the league last year under Mike Sullivan, who was a multiple-time Stanley Cup winning head coach. Like, we know he can coach. We know he can get it done. We know Mike Tomlin's won a Super Bowl. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. We know he's capable of getting it done, but they were just stagnant. So I think that just a new, fresh voice in the room can be a good thing. And even in the NFL, right? Like, I've talked about the Philadelphia situation, but like, Andy Reid kind of got stagnant in Philly, went to Kansas City, won multiple Super Bowls, and Philadelphia has won multiple Super Bowls since letting him go. So that doesn't happen all the time.
Are the Steelers going to hire Andy Reid?
No, the Steelers are not going to hire. Actually,
no. But are the Steelers going to hire like an Andy Reid, or are they going to hire fucking Mike McDaniel?
They might hire a Nick Sirianni, which I would take.
There's no Andy Reid available.
Nick Sirianni, I'm not really that fan of, but I'm just saying this is a crapshoot. Like, everybody was super excited about the fact, yay, there's going to be change, yay, dude. Look who's making the choices.
Yeah, well, that's fair.
Look behind the curtain, who's making the choices, and go, okay, do these people really understand football? Well, these are not football. These are not football people.
Right. Well, and to my Penguins example, right, when they finally fired Dan Bylsma, they hired Mike Johnston, who was incompetent, and stuck with him for a year and a half, and they're like, this is shit, and got rid of him. So
they recognized that they made a mistake and said, okay, own your mistakes and move forward.
Right.
And I credit them for that. Seriously. Like, acknowledge your mistakes and move forward. Right. One of the things I criticize the Steelers for all the goddamn time is, well, we put a high draft pick on this guy, so let's hang out with him for 3 years, and then we'll cut him. No, acknowledge your fucking mistake and move on, right? Well, so the Pens did that.
Yeah, I think so. I think for our next coach, whoever it happens to be, right?
Let's get into the. We have 8 candidates already that are going to interview. So go ahead, Ian. Start diving into what we're looking for.
Yeah. So let me just start with this. I think for our next coach, we need to be patient, but so I'll start with the fans. We need to be patient but realistic, because we have to recognize this is not a good roster. It's going to take some time to restock this group. Now that a new coach is going to come in, he's going to be able to, pick his coordinators, set his philosophy, all that stuff. The contracts they have, there's potential for a lot of turnover on this roster in 2 years. So I think we have to be patient while that roster turnover happens. Obviously, the biggest thing is we have no quarterback. And in the NFL, that's a
problem.
That is a huge problem, right? So we have to be a little bit patient, because there probably are going to be some bad times.
Yeah.
But I will also say we have to be realistic that if the guy's just clearly not getting it done, then we have to be willing to move on from him too. So there has to be a balance between the realism of we might suck for a couple years, and are we sucking because it's a bad roster, but this guy is a good coach, or are we sucking because he's a bad coach? And I think there have been Burner's the best. I think there have been good coaches that have been let go from bad situations, like Robert. I think Robert Saleh is a really good coach that got fired from a bad situation with the Jets.
And who got him fired, by the way?
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers did, yeah.
Well, that was part of it.
Yeah,
that was part of it.
So interesting.
There were a lot of issues. I'm
not rehashing the Jets. Let's talk about.
Let's just look through.
So
teams like that just have a
point.
lot of cultural issues, right?
Right.
Yeah, they're a mess.
So there are good coaches that get in bad situations that lose, but then there are just bad coaches also. So we have to balance the two. Now, I think actually Art had a really good point in his press conference when he said the most important trait we're looking for in a head coach is good leadership skills.
Yep.
Because Ben talked about this at the beginning of the show. What you want in a head coach is to be a leader of men. You don't necessarily need a guy who's a brilliant offensive mind. You don't necessarily need a guy who's a brilliant defensive mind. Like, actually, Bruce Arians is a great example here, where Bruce Arians was a mid-offensive coordinator who was a great head coach because he was a really good leader of men, right? Bruce Arians could inspire people to do things. And, his offenses weren't great. He got the quarterback sacked all the time, everywhere he went. But as a head coach, he was really good because he could inspire, he could get everyone bought into the same message to do things. So I think for me, the biggest thing I want, regardless of who the next head coach is someone who can lead the group, the players, have assistant coaches who can develop players and the fan base, and get the players to actually play like they have a common goal of winning a championship, not like they're just there to collect a paycheck. Because so much over like the last 3 or 4 seasons, I felt like I've been watching teams where guys were out there making business decisions because they just wanted to collect a paycheck and not be bought into the common goal of winning a championship. And that's
like Jalen Ramsey?
Jalen Ramsey, Dante Jackson, Minka Fitzpatrick at times. These were guys who were good players in this league. And like Dante Jackson turned it around with the Chargers this year.
Season.
And like that playoff game against the Ravens, he was out there making he was just like, whoop, duh, I'm not going to tackle this guy.
Yep.
So to me, that's the biggest thing is you want a coach who can lead the team and have the guys bought in selflessly to the goal of putting the team before the individual. And I felt like so often the last 4 or 5 years, we had players on the team who were putting themselves in front of the team.
So in terms of guys, like I said, we've got 8 guys on this list so far. And look, you've got I think, correct me if I'm wrong, 5 or 6 of the 8 are defensive side of the ball, correct? You've got Clay Kubiak and you've got Mr. Shielhaas. Okay, those 2 guys are on the offensive side.
Not to be confused with Shellhouse Funeral Home and Cremation Services in the greater Pittsburgh area.
Scarps, what a reference.
Ian,
Yes.
It's true. I went to high school with their daughter, Stacy.
Stacy Shielhaas?
Yes, Shellhouse Funeral Homes. I'm not fucking around. Ian, you know what I'm talking about, right?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
On that,
Hopefully this guy brings life and not.
It's really a
Exactly,
Shielhaas
yeah.
funeral home there?
Yes.
Holy shit. We got to
All right.
hire this guy.
Ryan,
Post
I'm
haste.
gonna tell you a story in the private chat that doesn't need to be told on the show. So go on, Mark.
Right.
Send nudes, Ian, like John Smith sent to Arthur Smith.
So, okay.
Smith
So
connection.
Art 2 talked about I want leadership. So do you guys think it doesn't matter, defense or offense? I just want leadership? Or do you think he still wants defense?
So I'd like to chime in here real quick.
Please do.
And I know I'm annoying and a piece of shit,
Sorry,
but that's
I was
fine. But
muted.
I think that those are definitely qualities you want, but I also want a guy who is in tune, who is in tune with the modern NFL. And Mike Tomlin, Arthur Smith, and Terrell Austin don't strike me as being in tune with the modern NFL. So, if it's an offensive guy or a defensive guy, I don't really give a shit. Do I want them to have leadership capabilities? Yes. But, I'll tell you one guy who's not on the Steelers interview list, who has been a coach in this league, and has somehow beaten the Steelers multiple times without having a franchise quarterback. And thank you. 39-7. Whatever. Thank you. Whatever.
You're not going to say this.
It's Kevin
Go ahead.
Stefanski.
No. Fucking Cleveland stench. He sucks donkey balls. How many fucking games did he win there?
He
And
beat
I will
Tomlin
agree with you. I
in
will
his
agree with
basement.
you. Whatever. Fucking whatever. I will agree with you in so much as he paid the price for their dysfunctional fucking bullshit within that organization. He paid the price for the Deshaun Watson trade, which he didn't even want, apparently.
No.
But this dude did not win games. He wasn't good.
He fucking coached the Browns to a playoff victory in Pittsburgh. What the fuck are you talking? I'm not trying to be a dick
Tomlin
right now.
coached middling fucking rosters every year
And he
to winning
fucking
fucking records.
He fucking created him, Ben.
Yeah, he did.
And you know
He
what?
did create him.
He
You're
did,
right.
and he had the fucking highest paid defense. Stop with that bullshit. So you're gonna give Mike Tomlin credit, but not Kevin Stefanski.
Pretty much,
Come
yeah.
on.
So I like Tomlin better.
And I love you, Ben. I love you,
But
Ben.
I know you do,
Browns
and I appreciate it. All I am saying is this: you got a dude who's coming from Cleveland,
That's
and if he
theater.
wants to be the offensive coordinator, okay, fine, I might be okay with that. But if he wants to be a head coach, fuck no, hell no, because I look at his track record and I'm like, nope, hell no. Cleveland stench. Fuck
Yes,
no.
Scarps, I agree with you on this one. I'm not
Okay,
saying I
well,
want him as
you're
my
both
head coach.
fucking wrong, and I'll tell you why.
No.
The fans will immediately go, as soon as this guy starts to lose, what the fuck? Why did they hire the guy from Cleveland? What the fuck are they thinking? And they will fucking revolt. It'll be a problem right off the bat. He loses 2 games in a row, and that's the storyline.
I'm not disagreeing with that part of it. What I'm agreeing with Ryan on is this. That guy was put into a shitty situation.
2-time coach of the year.
Whatever. He coached a bunch of kids from the school, the deaf and blind, and they were okay.
But
Good for
only
him.
Mike Tomlin can do that. Not
That's
Kevin
right, for
Stefanski.
19
only
seasons.
Mike Tomlin can.
Scarps,
Get
I'm
the
with you on this
fuck
one.
out of here.
Scarps, I'm with you.
Fucking fuck out of here.
Fuck you
I'm not
guys.
saying I
Couple
want
of Kool-Aid drinkers.
Listen, I agree with what Ben's saying. It would be worse because he's a Cleveland guy or a
Yeah.
former Cleveland guy.
It would
But
be.
He did a lot of good things there.
No, fuck that.
He
Fuck
fucking
no.
beat this team with
did.
fucking
Fuck
Dorian
no.
Thompson-Robinson.
Not even
and you're gonna
fucking
fucking tell me
maybe.
that he's better than
I
Mike.
agree
that
with
he's
you
worse
guys
than Mike
about
Tomlin.
the fact.
Fuck
I
outta
listen.
here.
I agree with you guys completely about the fact that our approach, the Steelers' approach to football, has outdated. In particular, on defense, they're running the same shit they've been running for 20 fucking years,
Yep.
and it has to improve. But yeah, so we're listen. Caveat: we've had some drinks. Like I've had a lot of drinks today. A lot of drinks. Like before the show even started, I was like, and right now I'm drunk.
It's amazing
but
he's actually awake.
it's fine. But back to where I was going with it. I think that we need a fresh approach to the modern NFL, and I completely agree with you on that. However, Kevin Stefanski, absolutely fucking not. No. Nope. New. Brownie stench, fuck no. Hell no. Now, I mean, if they'd hired Harbaugh, I would have been like, okay, well, I get it. I mean,
Who?
Harbaugh.
Oh.
I would have hated it, but I would have been okay with it. I would have been like, okay, well,
If
I
we hired
I
Harbaugh
understand
or the
it.
Browns hired it.
I understand it. The Steelers. I would have understood it, but I would not have liked it because I don't like Harbaugh.
You
He's a
would have
fucking
rather the
douchebag.
Steelers hired John Harbaugh.
No, I
than
wouldn't have
Kevin
rather.
Stefanski.
I would have understood it. If they hired Kevin Stefanski, there's no
Matt.
fucking way in hell I would understand it. Because fuck no.
Matty Smith, I do not want John Gruden. No.
No, fuck no. Fuck
Keep him
Gruden.
at
He's
fucking
done
bar
too.
stool. Let him do his little
Let him do
opening,
fucking
whatever the hell he does
barstool
there.
bullshit.
Let him fluff Will
Fuck
Howard
him.
a little bit more.
I will
Yeah.
say, can I just say,
Hey, you guys, you know what? If Will
No, I can't
Howard
say.
was just given a chance, he could be the next Kenny Pickett. We could get 5 wins next year. 5 wins and get a top 10 pick. Then would you guys be happy?
Yes, because that top 10 pick might be the franchise QB.
He might be. And all the Will Howard people would shut the fuck up.
All right, Mark, you have to publish Burner's comment. That was amazing.
Well,
You
I'm
have
trying to keep up
please,
here.
Please read it out loud for the people who are not watching the show.
This
live.
one?
Yes. This
Oh,
one.
yeah. Burner says, I'd rather feed Rosie O'Donnell Taco Bell for a week than offer farts like a bong rip instead.
I think that was in reference to either Stefanski or Harbaugh. So, yeah. Okay.
Hey,
All right.
Thank you, Burner. Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
I'm going to try and bring this back to normal.
No, Aaron.
I
you
have
can't
been-
root for him. Ben will not root for Will Howard.
I'm muting myself
Over.
now.
Yeah. All right. I am very encouraged by the list of 8 so far that the Steelers have requested interviews with or already interviewed.
Yeah.
I am encouraged because they are all young, up and coming kind of coaches. That it's not a bunch of retreads, right? It's not if the Steelers list of interviews had been like Arthur Smith, Mike McCarthy, Doug Peterson, John Gruden, I would have been like, oh fuck, we're still stuck in the the early 2000s, right? But the guys they're interviewing at least are for the most part, other than I don't understand the Panthers defensive coordinator one, which and fuck, watch him wind up being our head coach. But like for the most part, they're all guys who have led successful units in this league. And it seems like they're finally fucking branching outside of the Marty Schottenheimer coaching tree that for so long I've talked about this. I've tweeted about this. I may have even written an article on the site about this, that like literally every coach between head coach and even coordinator, you can like trace back to the Marty Schottenheimer coaching tree in some respect. Like everyone, Arthur Smith, Todd Haley, Matt Canada, like all of them have some trace back to the Marty Schottenheimer tree. And yeah, Schottenheimer, coached Cowher, he coached Dungy. So then you've got Cowher, you've got Tomlin, you've got all Cowher's former guys. But like it's still just like we got to get out of that mold. And we're finally like, even the fact that we're interviewing guys that are under the Shanahan tree, under the McVay tree, it's like, oh, they're at least willing to think outside the box a little bit here, which encourages me. We'll see who we wind up with, right? Like
here's why
I'm generalizing because I don't know who we're going to wind up with, but I think it's encouraging at least that they're willing to look at some of these other guys. Like the candidates they interviewed for offensive coordinator when they wound up hiring Arthur Smith was not inspiring.
No.
The list of head coaching candidates is a little more inspiring than that list, I'll say.
Keep in mind that Mike Tomlin was 6-10 as a defensive coordinator for the Vikings when he was hired by us. And I'm not saying that in defense of the coach for the Panthers at all, but I'm just making the point that stranger things have happened, that it doesn't always come from the coach doesn't always come from a team that's in the divisional playoffs or going to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So no, Tomlin at the time, Tomlin was seen as a guy who was a future head coach, who was definitely going to be the guy.
Yeah.
Like, and it was like, okay, well, let's interview this guy and let's just see. And he was so impressive through the interview process that they gave him a second interview, and they were like, oh, fuck. Well, shit. Now we have a hard decision to make. So it was like they were hiring him a year too early. It was the thought process at the time. It was like, this guy is definitely going to be a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Do we hire him now, or do we let him go and let him be somebody else's head coach next year?
I don't think it's going to be Flores. I think they're giving him an interview out of courtesy because he was there a year. I just have a gut feeling it's not going to be him. I'll just say that.
I like the Flores idea. I'm a fan of that. But, like, who is going to be your offensive coordinator, dude? That's what I want to know. Like, who is that guy going to be? Because your offense in fuck you, Ryan. Your offense in Miami was not impressive, and like what's your offensive background and as a head coach?
Yeah, and I do want to say there's been something about Flores that I don't like, and in the chat did a great job explaining it. And where did he come from? New England, and someone mentioned in the chat that he felt the players felt like he was a dictator, and then he came from New England under Darth Belichick. I will say this though, I do appreciate that even the Anthony Weaver from the Dolphins, and then the guy from the Panthers, and I apologize, I can't remember his name, but I appreciate that they're looking outside the box. I want to be a little bit selfish here. I want an offensive guy. But if you look at the final, if the final 8 teams in the league, D'Amico Ryans' defense, Michael McDonald, he came from somewhere. He's defensive. Who else? Help me out. Hold on. Mike Vrabel, Sean McDermott. So I think like 4 of the coaches in the final 8 are defensive and 4 are offensive. So like I don't necessarily care so much that like whether they're offense or defense. I care that they're going to have some autonomy and they're going to be able to hire some competent coordinators. So let's just say Brian Flores becomes the head coach, okay? And he's a defensive-minded guy, okay? We sort of have been in this shut up. We've sort of been in this pattern of the head coach is defensive, and we don't know if Terrell Austin's calling the plays or Mike Tomlin's calling the plays. So like, it's like I'm hesitant to have a defensive guy, but like I said this on Twitter the other day, but if Chris Shula is the head coach and he brings in Nate Shell hash.
Is it Nate or Neil? Is it Nate or Neil? Whatever. Shield
I
Haas.
said Nate. I don't know if I could know. Is it Nate or Neil?
I don't know.
Shieldhaas.
Nate
Used to be quarterback at Illinois.
Nate Shieldhaas. But the point being is, if that's the package deal, and they so you got a head
or
coach
vice versa. If Shield Haas is the head coach and he brings in Shula as the DC, hey,
I'm sure
that's a lateral move for sure.
That's lateral.
You're right. You're right. Yeah.
Yep.
So, and and I said, and here's the other thing. I said this about the Arthur Smith hire. They fucking interviewed 3 guys, and they hired Arthur Smith, and he was one of the 3. And the thing that I appreciate the most about this is that the fact that okay, so Matt Smith, Nate said Nate doesn't even call plays. The fuck you want him for? Okay. He's the pass game coordinator under Sean McVay. The fucking guy knows something. Yeah. He knows
and
something.
McVay calls
Zach Taylor did and what Liam Cohen did.
And they're
McVay knows it. McVay is his own play caller, and he isn't going to relinquish that. So
going to a successful fucking tree. If they go the Shieldhaas route, if they go the defensive McVay tree route, you got Brandon Staley and Chris Shula. Yeah, fucking Matt Smith. Come on, man. Happy New Year, but you're full of shit. But the point being is that they have what eight interviews scheduled as opposed to 3 for the offensive.
I thought it was 9. Is it only 8?
Well, they're doing their due diligence.
Absolutely.
That to me is Puka or Adams. Devontae Adams has been hurt through the past 4 games. Fucking Matt Stafford has thrown the fucking Chandler Parkinson and all these other fucking random guys. The kid from Pitt Mumfield. Like, goddamn, dude. Get the fuck out of here, Matt Smith. Come on, man.
So just to jump in on this, Ryan's point is well taken about the last 8 or 4 offensive, 4 defensive guys.
Respectfully.
The last 8 Super Bowls, all the coaches in them have had offensive backgrounds.
There we go.
So that's 16 coaches that have made Super Bowls that all had offensive backgrounds. I've talked about this before. I've written about this before. The trend of offensive coordinators, there are 2 outcomes if you're an offensive coordinator in the NFL. You either become a head coach or you get fired. That is it. And it's usually within 2 years.
Or you become a head coach and you get fired.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, if you're a successful offensive coordinator in this league, you get head coaching opportunities. If you're a less than successful one, you get fired, and then it's back to the drawing board. You're a position coach, whatever. So, and sometimes you become a head coach, then go back to OC, like Arthur Smith did, whatever. And now he's getting interviews. Good luck. Hope you find somewhere else that's not Pittsburgh to coach.
Please, baby Jesus.
Yes, exactly. But I do feel like because of that turnover with offensive coordinators, you don't see that as much with defensive coordinators. You do a little bit with the younger guys like Mike McDonald that got the job in Seattle. But Steve Spagnuolo has been the defensive coordinator in Kansas City for how long now? And he was tried as a head coach, and people figured out he's not a good head coach, but he's a friggin' awesome defensive coordinator. Yep, and there's some guys that's true for. They're just good coordinators, but not great head coaches. And that's fine. Yeah. That's just how some guys are. But on the offensive side of the ball, right now in the league, the biggest, I'll call it market inefficiency, is having an offensive-minded head coach, because whether it's McVay or Shanahan or Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota, whoever else, regardless of if your offensive coordinator gets hired off or your pass game coordinator gets hired off somewhere, you're still the guy and your system is still being run there. If you're a defensive head coach Campbell in Detroit, if you're really good offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, gets hired somewhere else, you got to go find someone else to replace him and figure out an offensive philosophy. And Dan Campbell had to take over play calling in Detroit one game this year. So I do think just from a macro 1,000-foot level perspective looking down, having an offensive minded head coach is slightly better just because regardless of if your offensive coordinator leaves, you'll still have that philosophy in place, does hold up a little more, I think, right? Like, how many offensive coordinators has McVay had go become head coaches somewhere else, right? Like, Zach Taylor in Cincinnati and Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota. And there's probably some others that I'm missing too. But they've been able to maintain a high level of competitiveness with the Rams, even with turnover at that offensive coordinator position, because Sean McVay's system is still in place. Same with like Shanahan in San Francisco, right? His system is still in place. So they've had turnover of other guys, but it's not as devastating like it was in Detroit this year without Ben Johnson. So I think like if I had to broadly generally pick, I think the trend in the NFL these days is that an offensive head coach is better, but you can still win with a defensive head coach. I mean, Seattle has proven that with McDonald. Detroit proved that with Campbell. He hired a good guy in Ben Johnson. So some of it is if you're a defensive head coach, you got to have really good assistants underneath you. Whereas if you're an offensive head coach, the assistants don't quite matter as much, I guess.
Just to take up what Matt Smith is talking about a little bit, Nate Shieldhaas having Stafford. Shieldhaas. You can't deny that. You can't deny that a coach can make a huge step up in a fortune based on the players that are there.
He's not fucking getting Stafford coffee every day. And
right.
if he wasn't competent and
McVay wouldn't have him there.
Yes.
Why?
Yes.
Why isn't he getting Stafford every day?
No.
Well, and the other thing is, it's not just us that's interviewing him. Like other teams have recognized, like this kid has potential, right? They're like, this kid might be 34 years old or whatever he is, 36. I don't know, but they're like, this guy's got potential, and like other teams have recognized that. So I think it's not just the Steelers being like, oh, we're going to interview this guy because he stood next to Sean McVay for half a season. It's teams have recognized the potential in someone. And sometimes when you're hiring a head coach, if you're looking for the long term, you want to find the guy that has that potential.
They did that before with Mike Tomlin.
I would say this too, is that fucking the hardest working fucking people in the building are the fucking quality control coaches and the pass game coordinators and the defense coordinators and all this shit, because they're trying to make a name for themselves to advance in this game. So like to act like he's just getting somebody coffee, like Matt Smith, I love you, you're my muse, but like you're full of shit. I'm just saying.
Yeah, he's not a Rooney Rule guy either. It's simply because they're interviewing several other candidates that fit that. So
there are many minority candidates in this process this time. So that's not really a thing.
I number one want to thank everybody for being with us tonight. We had a great audience, which I kind of had a feeling we would, considering the news this week. We are rounding it down here, just about 90 minutes in, and next week we'll start talking roster stuff. Obviously, if a coach is in place, we'll touch on that. I still think we're probably 2 weeks from that, but in any case, we will get much more into the roster and free agency and all that kind of stuff too. So I believe it is time for Casey Kasem. And I got to tell you, I've been looking forward to this one this week because I got a feeling we're going to get emo Casey Kasem tonight.
Because Ryan's a fucking hater. Right.
I hope I can live up to your expectations. Casey's Coast to Coast. American Top 40. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the week that was January 15th, 1990. Our favorite correspondent and non-ball knower, Ryan, is back with us again this week, and he writes, Dear Casey, he's gone. Oh, I better learn how to play football. He's gone. Oh, we need a new coach to replace him. He's gone. Oh, why? What went wrong? Casey. That's, of course, a parody of She's Gone by Hall & Oates off their album Abandoned Luncheonette, released back in 1973, which is, as you know, the year Aaron Rodgers wrote his senior thesis. Thank God that douchebag won't be here next season.
Hater.
And I thought Russell Wilson was full of shit. Rodgers, the king of crash outs. Good luck in Canton, you self-righteous prick. Let's get back on schedule here, Casey. I'm sure you've heard by now that Mike Tomlin has resigned as Steelers head coach. It's been 2 days. I thought he'd have a job in 5 minutes. But he doesn't. John Harbs did. Anyways, when I heard the news, I felt sad, but also happy. Like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. And by weight, I mean 7 straight playoff losses and the last 5 by double digits. Casey, for a guy who doesn't tote last year's bags, Mike sure did a great job of getting blown out in the first round again. Mike is so good at getting blown out, I'm now referring to him as my ex-wife.
I was wondering if that was coming. Holy shit. Oh my gosh.
All right. Thank you, Ian. Appreciate that. Casey, I'm also sure you've heard the news about how the players reacted to Mike telling them he was stepping away, but my sources have indicated that that wasn't the full story. And I'd like to clear that up for our audience. Not only was Aaron Rodgers sobbing, I was told him and Mike embraced one another and French kissed. I was told Cam Hayward asked if Steelers president Art Rooney II could take some of Mike's salary and convert it to Cam so he could feed his family because he failed to reach his incentives. I was told TJ Watt shed as many tears as he has playoff wins, which meant he didn't cry. I was told Arthur Smith gave Mike one last mustache ride. I was told Boz said, "Fuck this shit, I'm the real MVP." I was told Patrick Queen tried to chase Mike down for a final goodbye, but he just missed him. I was told DK Metcalf slapped Mike Tomlin right in the face. And last but certainly not least, I was told Omar asked Mike, since he had been such a good boy, if he could stay up past his bedtime to make a personnel decision next season. I was lying, Casey. I have one more. I was told Art Rooney II said, "Mike, come on, we can do this thing again in 2026. To which Mike responded, "Nah, fam, I'm good." Again, Casey, I'm only reporting what I was told. But it wasn't all bad. And Casey, I do have a heart. I respect Mike for acknowledging that this wasn't working anymore and that he didn't feel he could be the guy to lead them any longer. As an ultimate competitor, despite the last decade in the playoffs, I'm sure it's hard for Mike to walk away. I thank Mike for everything he did, for maintaining success and bringing another world championship to Pittsburgh. There are too many Tomlinisms to list, but he recently said one that stuck with me. My windshield is bigger than my rear view. Ain't that the truth, Mike? Good luck to you, and thanks for everything. I remember you. Well, Ryan, keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. And also keep your radio tuned right where it is. At number 19 this week, here's Skid Row with I Remember You.
Well done, Casey, and thank you once again for also giving your ex-wife a little props there. That's something we look forward to each and every week. Thanks, everybody. Again, great crowd tonight. Thanks, everyone in the chat, being patient with us, trying to answer all your questions and everything. And we'll be back next week, of course, same time, same station, all that good stuff, and start talking some roster stuff because there is a lot of it to discuss, and obviously latest updates on the head coaching search and all that stuff too. So make sure you check out the website, steelcityblitz.com, and thank you once again to Deck Roofing Incorporated, Variety Sports Network, and of course Frank Walker Law. And that's it for us tonight. Thanks so much, everybody, and as always, go Steelers.
Ravens suck.
They didn't even make the playoffs. Fuck those guys.
We've had some drinks.